G'day, folks. Welcome this evening to our webinar, FarmIQ and Figured, freeing up time when it comes to financials. I'd just like to, thank you for taking the time this evening of your important time. We've got about 20 odd registered now, so it's great. Thank you very much. Just we'll kick into things. And so, welcome. My name is Craig Trotter. I'm the Upper South Island business manager at FarmIQ. Been at FarmIQ for coming up 3 years now, working with farmers and rural professionals, accountants, bankers, etc. throughout the Upper South Island. So pretty much Geraldine North, and just working with farmers that are utilising the FarmIQ software, as well as our support partners as well, Sinlay, accountants, bankers, and etc. And so it keeps me entertained day to day, and I'll get my colleagues, Danielle and Aaron, to introduce themselves, and then we'll push on from there.
I'll start, I guess. I'm Danielle. I'm with the Figured team. I'm the team lead of the customer success team. I've been with Figured for about 2 years, started on just part of this customer success team, and now I'm the lead. My history is primarily in the customer success space in my career. Yeah, so if any of you Figured users are on today and you've ever sent a chat through the green help bubble, I may have helped you out. Hopefully I did well.
Yep, so I might as well go. Aaron Stewart. I am one of the FarmIQ product owners. I primarily deal in integrations and enhancements to the web side of things. I sort of had a bit of involvement in the development of this integration, and if there's any major problems with it, it'll probably end up on my desk. But we'll see how that goes.
Great, thanks, guys. I suppose, folks, the purpose of this webinar this evening is just to have a chat around the integration. We'll go back to some of the basics. We actually created the original integration back in July last year, and so it's been going for coming on 10 months now, I suppose, in terms of the integration that was set up between FarmIQ and Figured. In the last couple of months, we've had some really important or really exciting enhancements been released as well. So it's been great, and we'll talk about those in a bit of detail too, just to make the integration better and to make it more of a two-way street sort of thing. So as we go along, ladies and gentlemen, you'll see there's the chat box in there in terms of on your screen. Feel free to chuck any questions or comments as we go. We'll try and make this as reasonably interactive as we can. And then at the end of it, we'll go through any Q&A or bits and pieces that people are interested to cover over in any more greater detail. So, yeah, that's pretty much us from that perspective. Kick off now in terms of just what what we're looking to cover. I'll have a brief spiel around FarmIQ, what it is, what it does, and how it can be utilised by farmers and rural professionals day to day in terms of across their businesses. Danielle will have a bit of a chat around Figured then as well, and then we'll just go straight into the integration demo. So have a look at the demonstration of the integration, how it works, how it operates, and we'll get stuck in from there. So it should be pretty straightforward, and we'll push on. So FarmIQ is New Zealand's farm management map-based farm management software, and so we've been going for sort of coming up 12 years now. We've got around 5,000 users across our base. We specialise in pastoral-based sheep, beef, deer, and dairy production systems, and so it does tend to be around animal production systems within the context of New Zealand. It's a place where you can record and report all on your animal and all your land activities, and so that's what we're about. We're in terms of the software that we've created over those 12 years is recording and reporting on land-based or farm-based activities around your livestock and around your land activities. Some examples of that: you can record your live weights of your stock, weight target reporting, that sort of thing. You can record all your animal health treatments within the program as well, the batch numbers, product reconciliations, etc., etc. stock movement between paddocks is a big one these days in terms of understanding grazing pressure, or looking to do look at your biosecurity across your farm. And of course, we record stock reconciliations as well. And so using FarmIQ, recording your births, your deaths, your sales, your purchases of livestock across your farm, you can maintain an accurate stock reconciliation every day of the week. And that's a big part of what our users utilize FarmIQ for. On top of that, of course, you can record all your land activities using the software as well. So all your fertilizer, chemical applications, your cropping plans, and activities as well. And so your wintering feed budgets or wintering plans, you can record all of that on the FarmIQ program, utilizing the map functionality, and have that stored in one place. From that, you can record your detailed paddock history as well. So all your fertilizer applications, chemical applications, and then your nutrient reporting as well, what it's used for. FarmIQ is all about having information in one place, having all your farm information in one place. And we have a range of integrations with a range of different companies. Some of the examples are that Gallagher and TrueTest weighing platforms, the software. We have Bluetooth integrations with both the Gallagher and TrueTest equipment. We have an integration with TrackMap, and some of you may have been to a webinar held last month that we had in conjunction with TrackMap, and we have an integration with them. And so all your fertilizer and chemical records feed into TrackMap, will then automatically feed across into FarmIQ as well. We have integrations with Nate and as well in terms of some of those software programs. Silver Fern Farms and ANSCO kill sheet reporting as well. We have integrations with both Silver Fern Farms and ANSCO, and so all kill sheet reports, when you send livestock away through to either Silver Fern Farms or ANSCO, you get automated kill sheet reporting information back. And of course, Figured now as well. We've had a Figured integration since July last year. It's gone pretty well, and the purpose of this webinar, like I was saying before, is to have another look at that and then talk about some of the enhancements we've made to that side of things as well. So that's FarmIQ in a nutshell, and I'll pass on to Danielle to have a quick chat about Figured.
Absolutely. So Figured, we're a financial management software specific to agriculture. And our main goal is to simplify the farm finances. We do it in a few different ways. So we offer the ability to bring in your financial data directly from your accounting software. So you can link that directly to your Figured file, and that allows for the workflow that you choose as well. So you can work on a zero first basis or a Figured first basis. We pair this with what's happening on farm by utilizing the Figured production tracker tools. So those marry and come together on our platform. You'll see what our tracker tools look like shortly. These production trackers are further improved by integrations with software like FarmIQ. So our goal is to eliminate the need for double entry if you're already using tools like FarmIQ, and increase your efficiency as well. We have the ability to create initial forecasts with our planning grid at the beginning of your season, and reforecast, as circumstances change. This can be done utilizing our snapshots tool. And if you combine this with the benefits of cloud accounting, Figured allows for real-time decision making. And with our scenarios tool, you can look at long-term high-level forecasting for up to 10 years in the future. This allows you to look at the financial impact of maybe restructuring your mortgage, or the long-term effects of increasing your herd size. And this can be done separate to your season-on-season forecasting. So it's a separate tool completely. You can also invite your entire team onto your Figured file, everyone from your farm manager, the accountant, and the advisor. So this is facilitating a collaborative and synchronized approach to your business financial management. Yeah. We offer quite a lot. I could go in depth. I could probably talk about all the tools we offer for about an hour, but you'll get a better idea of our capabilities once we jump in there. I'm a little more hands-on.
Okay, sounds good. from that, I suppose, Aaron, we'll do a bit of a demo if that suits. I'll stop sharing my screen.
Yep. Hopefully. Cool. All right. Thanks, Danielle and Craig. So yeah, I'm not going to go through everything in it. I thought I'd go through and explain sort of what the integration is trying to achieve and how it works. There is a wizard process for actually going through and linking FarmIQ to Figured. So it basically steps you through the process of how to link up the trackers, and I'll sort of give you a demonstration of what those trackers are. But yeah, essentially what the integration is trying to do is to marry up the FarmIQ stock rec, so as you see here, and the events that are entered into it with the Figured trackers, and to keep those in sync and reconciled. So essentially, if you enter something in FarmIQ around stock and it affects your stock rec here, it should flow into your Figured trackers. So once you do have them linked, you would see there that this tracker is linked to FarmIQ, and if you're a Figured user, you would know this screen. And essentially, what we're trying to link up is our stock rec and FarmIQ with this tracker here, and to keep them in sync, and pass over as much information as we can to make it as painless as possible. As Craig mentioned and Danielle mentioned, we've done some enhancements to things. Most of that is based around some feedback that we got from users. So from you guys, where having the initial integration did change some behaviors on how you were already using Figured, and that just was an annoyance and sort of took away some of that value. So we did listen, and we have made some changes, and we'll sort of go through those as we do a couple of events. I'm not going to pretend I am a Figured expert, so please, Danielle, if I get something wrong, sing out. But yeah, so essentially, as I say, any event you enter into FarmIQ that would affect this will get transferred over. And so an example of that is if I just wanted to add some stock to the farm, so I've done a purchase or a birth, you enter the date that's gone in on, the event type, I'm doing sheep in this case, and I'm going to purchase some new ewe lambs, some replacements. And so you'd enter that as you normally would in FarmIQ. So maybe I bought 20 of them. The relevant information you've got in FarmIQ. Now, the initial integration, this was we weren't passing over dollar values. It was a limitation of the initial integration. It's no longer a restriction. So we can enter that. So if they were, for example, $100, and I'm just going to say where they went to. So I'm going to my replacements and going into a paddock. And that's the minimum amount of sort of information I'd need to enter to record. I can enter weights as well. So we will pass over the dollar values. We'll pass over any weights that we might have had. And when you save it, and as it processes through FarmIQ, like you normally see, so it goes up there, that will actually just appear in Figured. So I'll refresh your tracker or your screen, and we should see it appear here. So that's gone from 55 to 75, and my two stock recs remain intact. Now, one of the key differences in the past was this information here. You couldn't do certain things in Figured before. As I mentioned, the dollar values, there was a reconciliation process in Figured that didn't allow this to be populated. We would have to send through 0, and it would be required to enter a different way. That's no longer a restriction, so it is editable in here. So in FarmIQ, I could have left that blank and passed it over. It would have come through 0, and you can update it in here now. So that might have been wrong. Maybe it was $110 a head, or your total value, or whatever you need to change it to. That is changeable. The other information, such as the quantity and average weight, are still uneditable. They're controlled by FarmIQ. And then you get this posted status and here, which hopefully is more familiar to those users already using it. All of that is editable in FarmIQ. So if I went back into FarmIQ, in my diary, I would see the events that are there. I can change that, whether it's the weight or the number of animals. So a simple change there will should be 21, and a save will actually update that across. So the integration, as I say, does keep everything in sync. So anything that we do in here immediately flows across. If you delete it in here, it will delete out of Figured. And hopefully now with the changes that have happened here for the amounts, what we should see is it's more familiar to those users that have used it before having any of these integrations in, and much more simple to track. As you can see there, the edit comes straight across. And that means, like, if you are recording information on a regular day-to-day basis, so if you're doing cattle, for example, you're doing your NAT and keeping up to date, then your Figured trackers are going to stay immediately up to date. So anyone who's doing financial management or getting third parties to review things or plan, they're seeing what's happening immediately on farm, rather than sort of a process where you might come in here and do it at the end of the month or on a less regular basis. Popping up. Deleting of it is, if you need to delete the transaction, it's just delete out of FarmIQ. That will remove it from here. If you added something in here that wasn't in FarmIQ, which is possible, you would create this variance between the two systems, but you might do that to correct the balance, and that would be totally manageable here because that event is not in FarmIQ. But where it's come from an external party like FarmIQ through an integration, the actual delete function is done by the party that created the event. As I say, this works with deaths, purchases, anything that moves, essentially anything that moves animals around. When it gets to year end, FarmIQ does handle the aging for you. So when you reach your financial year end, say 31st of March or 31st May in the case of this tracker, it will actually do an event for you and create those aging ups. And as like in some cases, like that will happen sort of on the 1st of June. The likelihood that you might have in a sale or a purchase you haven't entered, or something that hasn't been done in the past, is reasonably high, particularly if you're selling stuff right on balance day. Anything you did enter on those dates would automatically also adjust in the aging. So it's not the case that you've got to go and edit those manually. We will keep those in sync as well, meaning that the aging will go from, you know, our ewe lambs become ewe hoggets and so on. So the integration does also cover that and keep those in sync. Anything you want to cover, Danielle, around Figured side of things, the changes you made? Because they were a lot more extensive than us.
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in, and I can cover the options for that financial reconciling side, because there are a few workflows that can be used, so I'm happy to walk through those.
Yep. Do you want to share your screen? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Can you guys see that?
Cool.
Okay. So, yeah, I guess if you're unfamiliar, this is the Figured livestock tracker. So you can see it kind of does already replicate that livestock movement grid that FarmIQ has. And you can see the transactions that were pushed through from FarmIQ sitting in here. You'll notice that these are currently showing a little orange triangle. So that just means that the financial side of those is currently unreconciled. And that just means that the financial data entered into Figured and the financial data in Xero aren't lined up. I have reconciled one line here that was pushed through earlier. And as I mentioned, there's a few workflows available on how to do this. And that's very dependent on how you already kind of do your workflow in terms of entering those transactions in Xero. So we do recommend a workflow of posting the transactions from Figured to Xero. It just is the most streamlined in our point of view. So you can push the stock movements from FarmIQ into Figured and then post those directly to Xero to be reconciled later. Now, if you're already using a workflow of entering those transactions in Xero first, we do support that as well. So in this case, This is a demonstration of one that has already been entered in zero. So you can see I've already got the invoice here that matches the data that was pushed through from FarmIQ. So the dollar value and the quantity match. We come in here and that transaction was automatically pushed through and it doesn't show unreconciled because they automatically match. Easy, done. Now these two are showing unreconciled. And if we look at the bottom one for Ram Lambs, we do have a dollar value sitting in our zero account, which we can see is showing here, but it differs from the one that's been pushed through from FarmIQ. So in cases like this, we do offer the option. You can actually see the transaction that was entered into zero if you need to compare the data and maybe update one of them. So you can select that import from zero option. That's going to show you the quantity that was entered in the zero side, any notes, and the dollar value from the zero side as well. Now, one thing you'll notice is that the FarmIQ value, it comes through as it was entered. So it's entered on a per head basis. It comes through as a per head basis, and that can't be changed. These ones can. So we could actually, should be on this one, but we can compare it easily. So in this case, we can see the total here. If we wanted to, we could either go into zero and adjust that to match whichever is correct. Or in this case, I can update that to be 110. And that should bring that in line, and those will match, which gets rid of our unreconciled status. Now I'll finish with our recommended workflow, which is the posting directly from Figured to zero. So if we look at the two transactions that were received from that Figured FarmIQ integration, we can just pop into that, edit the transaction, and in Figured we have this post to zero button. We'll want to double check that our details of the transaction are correct as well. We can also have the option to enter a zero reference, but you'll notice that it's already pulled in the details of the transaction as it was pushed from FarmIQ. We still have the option to update that dollar value if it isn't correct. In this case, we'll leave it as is. And when we hit save transaction, that's going to automatically create either a bill or an invoice in zero. And if I go into my zero file, I can see that it's been pulled through. And it's pulled through all the details as they were in both Figured and FarmIQ. So all I need to do now is reconcile that payment when it happens. Now, if we go back onto that edit transaction page, I did see one of the questions in the chat earlier was asking about things like non-stock lines, basically, so levies, associated income or costs. Currently, it's not live yet, but it's an open ticket with our team. It's in the final review stages, so within the next couple of weeks, that will actually be live, and you'll be able to add those non-stock line items. On this page here, it will be a section at the bottom, and you can just click it, add non-stock line. It'll have the same formatting in which you, instead of choosing a stock class, you'll choose an associated account. So that might be transport costs, things like that. And you would just select that account. You'd select the dollar value associated with that line. So you can enter it as a negative or a positive depending on what it is. And when you do post that to zero, it automatically adds it as a line. And it adds it to the total as well. Now, once all of that is complete in the tracker, that's going to automatically pull through to our planning grid, which is where the wider farms data gets married to those like production income and costs. You can see the two that we reconciled here are sitting in there. Now, this is probably a poor example, but it's very easy to see where it's pulling through to. If we hop back into the previous season, you can see my wider farms data, because this is a demo file, is much more built out. So it would be sitting amongst all of this data, and you could see as a whole business, like where you're sitting financially. And the same is true for reports. So once you reconcile those transactions within the tracker, they automatically flow through to your cash flow and P&L reports within the report suite. I can have a look at some of the questions. Okay, so I can see there's a question that says, if you update a transaction in Xero, will it flow through automatically and immediately to Figured, or do you have to run a manual sync? So it depends on the workflow that you've used. So if you've gone Xero first and you make that update, you will need to run a sync. If you've posted the transaction from Figured to Xero, the best option there is actually to make the edit in Figured and then repost that change. And then it will automatically add that change to the existing invoice or bill. And a sync won't be needed in that case.
Great. A question there from Vicky: can you delete a transaction at either FarmIQ or Figured and it flows through? If you delete
the transactions will need to be, if it is a FarmIQ push transaction, it will need to be deleted in the FarmIQ side.
Yep, but it'll flow through into Figured.
Yes, it will automatically be recognized. It's pretty instantaneous, actually.
Yeah, great. And a question there from Anders around updating. If you update the price in Figured, does it flow through back into FarmIQ? So there's a two-way enhancement.
If you're editing it, yes, it will flow through. I'm looking at having a way of doing that in the background as well. So we will pull them back through. So if you don't fill them in FarmIQ, we'll look at doing sort of either a nightly pull or giving you the option of like refreshing if you want to get it in sooner. It's not a major enhancement and something we'll be looking at doing very, very shortly. But yeah, if you do edit an event, we will pull it back into FarmIQ currently.
Cool.
I just see that Vicky was asking, when you're deleting a transaction, do you have to reconcile it in Xero first as before? So if you're deleting a transaction that was posted through to Xero, you will need to remove and redo the payment from the transaction before it can be deleted, just on the Figured end, because that will cause issue if you don't remove the payment first.
Great. And Stephen, to confirm, ideally transactions should be entered into FarmIQ to push through to Figured. Yeah, ideally in terms of transactions, I suppose, and the idea being that you can record sales, purchase, deaths, losses in FarmIQ, and then just automatically flows into Figured and keeps the stock reconciliations up to date.
So we've covered the bonus and top-up payments, have we, with that other enhancement you were talking about, Daniel?
Yeah, so that those bonus and top-up payments will be covered shortly on the Figured side. We do have like a current workaround, but honestly, it's so close to being live that it's probably not worth touching on because it will be fully supported and Figured very shortly. If you're familiar with the Figured app without the integration, that is already a feature, so it's nothing new for us. So we just needed to add it to this current integration tracker. Also, if anybody is new to using the integration and gets stuck at any point within the Figured side, I highly recommend in the bottom right-hand corner, we've got our green chat bubble. Our team's always there to support. And then if it's anything above our head, we can easily get in touch with either the FarmIQ support team, or we can, help out your accountants. We can point you in the right direction to get you going.
Right. Question there, during just updating a transaction Xero, will it flow through immediately to Figured, or do you have to do a manual sync as in the past?
Yeah, so you will need to run a sync if any updates are made in Xero. it takes a couple minutes to run that, and then it updates once that's complete. So I see Stephen's just asked a question. With the integration when preparing budgets, is the starting point in FarmIQ with numbers like livestock tracker and Figured? This will push through to Figured rather than vice versa. So at this stage, the integration is just on actual movements. It's not for forecasted movements. So if you're looking at building out your forecasted stock movements and you are using the Figured tracker, that will need to be done manually.
There's a question around support there, Danielle. When is that support available? I work mainly in the evening, so what are the hours of support, please?
Yeah, so we do have global teams. So our main team is all New Zealand based, and we do 8:30 to 5 standard. Now we do have a couple of people that work in our Oz team that are covering US and the UK. So they are online during that time. We're very transparent. So if one of the UK guys picks up your chat in the event that the New Zealand team's off, they'll just let you know whether they're capable of answering it or not. Different markets have different knowledge bases. And so they'll just say, hey, this might be a little over my head. New Zealand guys will pick it up first thing in the morning.
Cool. No, that sounds good. There's a couple of questions there in the Q&A sort of things. When's the best time to sync FarmIQ to Figured? Any thoughts, Aaron?
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. Like it does, like as long as they're up to date before you hit sync would be what I would say. Like the Figured system does allow you to go back and in manually. So if you were up to date in FarmIQ and you linked it, you could still go and update the Figured one manually for the events that we've got that you missed. But probably the other way around is not ideal, because if FarmIQ is behind and Figured is up to date, when you linked up and we put them into FarmIQ, we would send them through and you'd have double ups in Figured. So I guess, yeah, like minimum requirement is having your FarmIQ stock rec up to date. Ideally, you'd like both of them up to date before you linked, and it doesn't matter whether you're at the start of a financial year or the end. In some ways, it's probably easier to do it midway through because you don't have that sort of aging going on right around you, sort of thing. As I say, FarmIQ will keep their aging up to date, but it's just sort of sometimes a little bit clearer to sort of, if you're not worrying about aging right on it. There is an age out date in FarmIQ. I guess that's meaning the aging month. One of the requirements of the integration is that they are both in sync. By default, FarmIQ was set to the 30th of June for our aging month. So 30th of June, 1st of July. However, that is actually really easy to change under the organization, and you just change that setting and it automatically adjusts all of the prior events to deal with that aging as you go. So you do need to have the two in sync before you sort of link them up. But as soon as they are, like I say, it's a simple change in FarmIQ, and it does adjust historically without any problem as well. Cool. The stock classes in FarmIQ are also adjustable. So if you did find that, hey, look, you've got some, variation in the naming and you'd like to move ours to the Figured or vice versa, it actually isn't a big deal to go through and amend those stock class names. It's just again under the settings. But if you have any questions around that, our support team would be more than happy to run you through how to update those and get them to exactly how you want them.
Great. No, sounds good. From the FarmIQ perspective, I suppose, folks, there's the subscription packs. It's available too. It's available for our performance and enterprise packs. There's no additional cost with any of this as well either, of course. So it's just a matter of setting up the integration and getting support from the teams if required to get it operational and get it set up and going. Really stoked to have the enhancements in terms of the dollar values and those weight information flyable from FarmIQ to Figured. So it's been a really neat enhancement and based on farmer feedback and user feedback as we go. We'll bring new features out as we go as well. So, yeah, it should be like your feedback there, Anders, around yeah, yeah, based on farmer feedback. We've taken some of that stuff on board and look to make this more manipulatable in terms of particularly the weight and the price information. Wicked. No, that sounds good. We might sort of start to wrap things up now, folks, from that. But I'll just, so yeah, I suppose from our perspective, it's just about making sure we've got the information available to us in terms of connecting that data, and as we were saying before, have all that information in one place. Yeah, saving time on double entry is a big part of it too. So making sure we've got the opportunity, if there are stock reconciliations, our movements, deaths, losses, etc., is accurate in FarmIQ, that information will just flow seamlessly through into Figured, along with that enhancement side of information too, weight and value, weight and dollar information flying both ways as well. It gives us the opportunity to have much greater confidence in the numbers, supporting the decision making on farms, and getting everyone on the same page. And so applicable to farmers, rural professionals, accountants, and across the Figured team. So yeah, a really neat integration, and we're really proud to be able to partner with Figured to have this operational across our farmer and our users across the country. So no, from that perspective, that's any last words, Danielle and Aaron?
Yeah, I mean, if there's any users who aren't currently on Figured but keen to know more, feel free to reach out to the team. If you are a Figured user and you're stuck at any point, reach out to the team. We're always here to help, keen to talk. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, and second that statement, if anyone there, like Anders or anyone who's had a go and didn't go, wasn't working quite how you needed it to, feel free to reach out to the team. We'll get going again. And as I say, I think we've solved most, if not all, of the issues that we, causing most of the problems. So be very keen to get some feedback, and we will keep enhancing it based on your feedback. So appreciate that.
Fantastic. No, brilliant. Thanks, folks, and thanks everybody that come along this evening. It's been a great, informative session and great interaction too, with asking some good questions, some solid questions. If you would like any more information, yeah, please get in touch with FarmIQ or Figured, and we'll go to it from there. Thanks for taking time out of your busy lives and taking time this evening. Much appreciated, and we'll call it a night. Thanks very much.
Thanks, guys.
Sweet. Cheers, guys.